Hey everyone, my name is Chelsea. Welcome to Little Mountain Ranch. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm happy to have you here with me today. We are going to make one of my very favorite soups. If you've been here for a while, you know that I love to make soup and I'm always working to improve my soup recipes. I have shared with you my tomato soup recipe before, but the recipe I'm going to share with you today is an upgrade to that base recipe, and it is so incredibly delicious. So I can't wait to share that with you. The other thing that we are going to do, and I'm very excited about this, I have to be very careful with this, gorgeous antique cookbook. Look at that, my friends. This is a 1906 edition of Marion Harlan's complete cookbook, and it is absolutely incredible. With it being so old, it is very fragile, so I'm trying to be very, I want to read to you this entire cookbook because it is absolutely incredible. We are going to make a recipe out of this beautiful cookbook today, and this one is called Sunshine Cake. So I'll read to you the recipe. Recipes were written back during this period in paragraph form rather than with instructions and direct. Recipes during this period were written more in paragraph form, and they did make an assumption that you did understand some basics of cooking, because just about everyone did, because of course there wasn't the option to go buy prepackaged food and things like that. And in this cookbook, she does have conversions and just kind of basic terms that you should know in the back of it, which I've had to refer to because some of them I've never heard before. This recipe is: sift 1 cupful of granulated sugar and add it to the yolks of 5 eggs, first beating these until they are thick. Add a dash of salt. Sift 3/4 of a cupful of flour twice with half a teaspoon of cream of tartar and add the eggs and sugar. Beat for 20 minutes. That's a long time. And fold in the whites of 7 eggs whipped stiff with a teaspoonful of white sugar dissolved in a teaspoonful of lemon juice and 1 tablespoonful of orange juice. Butter a pan, flour it lightly, and bake the cake in a steady oven for 40 minutes. So I thought we would try that because that is a cake recipe that I have never made before, nor have I ever made anything similar to it. So we are going to do that. But first, we are going to put our soup together because it does taste better if it's had a chance to cook for a little while, and I want to serve this for lunch today. So back over here, I have a couple of small squashes, and my squash are definitely hitting the end of their shelf life, but these are out of my pantry downstairs. So these were roasted at 400 for around 30 minutes or so until soft. And then into that 400-degree oven, I am going to add some onions and some garlic. I'm just gonna bunch that together over there. Put a little bit of olive oil on the top, and you'll notice that I didn't peel my onions because I can just peel those skins off when I take them out. And then we are also going to roast some peppers. My knives need to be sharpened to whatever size batch you are gonna make with this. So we're going to again pour a little olive oil on the top of those, a little salt, a little pep, and we'll roast these in the oven until they are just starting to brown and the onions and the garlic are soft. I have never used this kind of tea towel before. This was sent to me by Krista. Thank you so much. I love it. She sent me 2 of these, and I am a convert. I love the thin, just 100% cotton fabric. I am going to move over to tea towels like this because they just dry so nicely. And I don't know, something about them. I just love the feeling of it. And of course, is that pattern not fabulous? Okay, so for the base of this soup, I am going to be using canned tomatoes that I canned last summer. If it was summer and I had fresh tomatoes, I would be using fresh tomatoes. But what I want to do is pop all these open and just get these simmering on the stove so they can thicken up a little bit while the rest of our ingredients are cooking in the oven. So I'm just gonna plop these right in here and then go turn it on the stove. Oh, I forgot I have yogurt sitting in the sink too. That is just cooling down, so I can add my starter to it. So don't let me forget to deal with that later. Okay, over onto the stove. Okay, I am going to use my Enquiries for mixing the egg whites, and I'll put my egg yolks in this one. That egg has some weird spots on it, doesn't it? Oh dear. Let's see, am I able to do it with that tiny little one? Whoa! So we only need 5 actual yolks, but 7 whites. So I will just do my, better keep track here. Yolks, we need 1 more. These are little tiny first time layer eggs. So you know what? I think I'll add 1 more yolk since these are so small. Okay, pop this one over on my Enquiries. Oh, Juicerville is now back in stock with those, and I think it's a $25 discount or something like that. I'll put the link down in the show notes for you if you're interested in checking them out. I absolutely love it. It has, wrong drawer, it has taken me a little bit to kind of get used to using it because it's a different style of mixer than the KitchenAid that I had before, but now that I'm used to it, I absolutely love it. Okay, so we're gonna beat these up. And while I'm beating these, we'll get our yolks whipping over here. You do want to use room temperature eggs for doing egg whites. There we go. Okay, we have stiff peaks on our egg whites. I'll show you that in a second. And now we have to twice sift 3/4 of a cup of flour with 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar. So I'm actually out of my bulk flour. I buy my flour, my organic BC grown flour from True Grain, and I ran out. So I actually have an order coming in this week. And this is the size of bag that I was able to find locally of organic flour. So very happy to be able to order it bulk from out of town, that's for sure. Sifting is new to me. I have never sifted for any recipe ever, but cooking out of these old cookbooks, I'm trying to follow the instructions as they have them laid out. So usually I'm not big on following recipes exactly. So we're also going to sift in 1/2 teaspoon. I was supposed to put the sugar in with the eggs, which I didn't do. So now I am just going to add the sugar in with the flour and the egg. I'm gonna go switch this out because I am supposed to beat this part of the ingredients for 20 minutes, and I don't want to do that by hand. So I'm going to take my egg whites here. So I'm just going to take my egg whites here and put them into another bowl, and they can just sit here and hang out while we beat this other mixture. Back when this recipe was written, there was no other option but to do it by hand. Grateful for modern technology, that is for sure. This is very handy because the Enquiries has a timer right on it. And that comes in very handy for kneading bread dough, which is what I use my mixer for the most. Okay, let's check on our veggies. Oh, they're starting to look good and smell good too. Okay, so we need a teaspoon of lemon juice. Whoop. And 1 teaspoon of sugar. And a tablespoon of orange juice. And we're going to add this to our egg whites. So those were supposed to also be added when the egg whites were being mixed. So we're just doing everything wrong here. So now we're going to butter and flour our pan. I just love this beautiful old cookbook so much. Marion Harlan would probably be having a heart attack if she could see the way that I'm making this cake. She was actually, I've done some research on her, and she was an author, a very prolific author during her time, and actually quite progressive for the time period that she was in. And it's really interesting to read some of her advice to housewives in here. In one section, it talks about how the man is the head of the household, but then there's kind of a little tongue-in-cheek thing underneath it. And in fact, maybe I can find it. Okay, so she talks about who rules the home. That's the first part of this section. And then she says, "Now, sisters, since we made it plain, the case is really so. We'll even let them hold the rein, but we'll show them where to go." So she was quite progressive for her time. So she was definitely writing the cookbook for the times. There's a lot of instruction that's specifically geared towards women, of course, and being a good housewife and all of those kinds of things. But she put little things like that throughout it, where it was like, yeah, you know, the men kind of rule the roost, at least from the perspective of maybe the law at the time or the way society was structured at the time. But then she would say things like that, where she would say, yeah, we'll let them think that's what's happening, which I just think is so funny. Absolute treasure, absolute treasure. So our time is just about up on our batter, and it's a really interesting consistency. I'll show you. Very sunshine yellowy. So we're going to fold in our egg whites. Wow, that's really, really thick. Can you see that? Holy cow. I'm not really sure how these egg whites are going to fold into this because it's so thick. So I think I'm actually going to do this by adding this into the whites. Okay, so now it is much more of a kind of foamy texture. I had to be a little bit more vigorous than kind of gently folding, but this should be interesting. So we're going to bake this at 350 degrees for 40 minutes. Okay, now it's time to do some fun stuff with our soup. Now it's time to add all of our gorgeous roasted veggies to our tomatoes that have cooked down a little bit. So we're going to throw our garlic right in there, peel our skins off our onions and into that. So any of these that are not blackened, I'm just going to throw those right in to our soup. These roasted peppers are just fantastic in this soup. And anything that's a bit charred, I'll just peel off because that can make it taste a little bit bitter. And same with our squash. And this is going to go back on the stove. So we're going to let that cook for around 20 minutes or so, and then I'll show you what we do next when those 20 minutes have passed. So now I am going to blend this soup and get it all nice and smooth. You can use an immersion blender for this, but I just find that it doesn't get it quite as smooth as the Vitamix does, and I like it really smooth. Smells so good. So I have also added around half a cup of butter straight into the soup, and I feel like that's one of the kind of secret ingredients of this soup that makes it taste so creamy and good. So even like that, it is absolutely delicious. But to make it even creamier, I'm going to add a little bit of milk to it. But prior to doing that, so I am going to add a half a teaspoon of baking soda to this. It helps to cut the acidity, and for some reason, I don't know what the chemistry is behind it, it makes it so that I can add milk without it curdling. It's kind of a fun thing to do with kids because it makes the soup all foamy for a few minutes. And you just keep stirring it until all that foam is gone. So I'm going to take some of this soup out of here for Dan because he doesn't do the milk. And then I'm going to add a little bit of milk to it just to make it a little creamy. That's probably a couple of cups. Look at that, just beautiful and absolutely scrumptious. Okay, one thing that you will find when you add milk to a tomato soup is that initially it'll kind of be like almost cheesy. Can you see that? But just keep stirring it and it will kind of, I don't know, melt into the soup. And it won't have that thick texture. So I'm just going to add a little bit of pepper. You will never go back to eating store-bought tomato soup again after having this soup, my friends. It is so good. Okay, that is ready. Just checking on our cake, and I'd say that that cake is done. Okay, I did start getting through the dishes. A few dishes left, and then I'm just gonna get this counter cleaned off, and then we'll serve up the soup and see how our cake turned out. All right, I ate the soup before I had a chance to show you. It was really, really good. It tasted amazing, and all my kids like it, which is great. Here's our little cake, and it has now cooled down, and I have just made a simple lemon glaze. It's just powdered sugar and lemon juice. So I'm just gonna drizzle a little bit of that. Yeah, that should be runny enough. On top, a little piece. It's very spongy. Look at how yellow that is. It's beautiful. It's delicious. It's very light, not too sweet, with a little bit of the sourness from the frosting. It's a perfect combination. It's really good. It's very light. It's not a very dense cake, which I really like. It almost has kind of a sweet bread flavor to it. Yum. I have a ton of potting up to do down in the greenhouse today. I have, I think, somewhere around 100 tomatoes to pot up. So it's going to be a lot of potting up. Fortunately, it is absolutely beautiful outside and I can't wait to get out in the sun. All right, friends, we are down in the greenhouse now, and as you can see, it is starting to fill up. I think I did around 70 tomatoes yesterday, getting those potted up, and now I have, where did that tray go? Here it is. Some more little tomato babies to get potted up, or up potted as some people like to say. We have Arbison, beefsteak, and Manitoba bush in this tray. So both of those are good varieties for northern growing. I do have over on my website on the blog a article on good varieties to grow in the north, in northern or colder short season climates like ours. And then I did double check, and I do have my tomato soup recipe on the blog as well. And I'm just doing a couple of updates to it, and it will be available for you hopefully by the time this video comes out. If not, you can keep an eye on my blog. I'll put a link down to my newsletter down in the show notes for you if you want to sign up for that. And then I'll notify you whenever I post new content on the blog. I also do giveaways over on my newsletter, and usually just share kind of a chatty update on what I've been up to during the week. So I'm very happy to say that I only planted one seedling per soil block this time, which is good. My germination on my tomato seedlings was so good this year, and every single seed I planted germinated. So in the last tray that I did, the ones that are over here, I ended up having to compost quite a few seedlings because I just had way too many, and I hate doing that. It's one of the reasons why I don't overplant, especially if I know I have good quality fresh seed. Usually germination's pretty good if you're buying from a reputable source and the seed is fresh. Before we get to potting up these tomato seedlings, let me just show you what I have going on in here and some of the new things we have coming up. We have some Lennox cabbage, some top bunching collard greens over here. Oh, just starting to come up right there. And then some green acre cabbages over here that are starting to come up. And this tray, can you see how it's a little bit green? I had this tray tucked in underneath here, and I forgot it was there. And as I was watering all of my seedlings that are up here, all of that water was going down onto this tray and overwatering it. And as you can see, we have some algae growth happening on the top of these soil blocks, but so far germination has been fantastic. Almost every soil block has a plant coming up, a little, what are these ones? These ones are gypsy broccoli. Because now this is out from underneath and I'm going to actually be able to let it dry out a little bit, I'll let the top dry. All of this algae will dry, especially because it's pretty dry in here. We have some green magic broccoli coming up over here. Gorgeous fennel growing here. Parsley. And back over here, I have some pak choi that's starting to come up here. We have some Piso mustard greens, Aztec red spinach. That's not coming up quite yet, but our Salanova lettuce is coming up here. That's very exciting. That's such a great lettuce. Little cabbages looking fantastic. These are Copenhagen market cabbages, China Gold Napa cabbage, dark boar kale, abundance kale. This is my own seed, so I'm very excited that the germination was so good on that seed. Some more marigolds. This one is a Cracker Jack marigold. These seeds were sent by a subscriber last year, so I'm excited to see how those ones turn out. Celery and celeriac looking good. Kohlrabi looking good. This lemon balm is much happier now that I have it potted up into some larger containers. Over here, I mostly have tomatoes, pretty much all tomatoes actually. And our snapdragons looking great. And I planted my snapdragons a little bit early this year, which is fine because they can handle a little bit of frost, so I'll be able to put them out into the garden fairly soon. But I do have one little bloom that came up on the top of this one, so anything that is forming buds like this at this point, I'll clip off, but I decided to let this one bloom because it makes me happy when I come in here, so it'll probably open up by the end of the day. Just beautiful. I love snapdragons so much. These are nice and healthy looking little tomato seedlings. So you'll notice I am starting to get very full in here, and I am not yet at the point where I can take this plastic that it hangs down during the night and I have heaters put in underneath, but I'm not at the point where I can take that plastic off, which means I don't have access to the top shelves in my grow room yet. So what I'm doing at this point is my workspace, which is what you are sitting on right now. I am putting all of my seedlings onto this space during the daytime, and then I'm tucking them in underneath at night and then pulling them out in the day. But it won't be long until it's warm enough at night that I can just have my heaters going in here without that extra plastic, and then I can use those top shelves, which I am definitely going to need because I currently have 100 more seedlings in the grow room that need to be potted up. My grow room inside is starting to empty out now, which is kind of nice. I much prefer to work out here in the greenhouse with my plants than to work in the grow room. So I'm always happy when I can move everything out here. These are just looking so lovely. You know what? I don't think I have another tray. Oh, I do. Oh, good. I have a bunch of lids for like Rubbermaid containers that I am not using. So I've been using these to put my potted up seedlings onto, because I need something to have these pots sit on, because once they get wet they do get a little bit fragile, so I don't want to move them around with my hands. Oh, I can hear the quad. Dan's heading out to finish working on the fence. He has it just about done, the fence in the north meadow. So in my next video, I will be sure to show you the fence back there, because it's just looking so good. I love fences. I don't know what it is about fences. It doesn't matter what kind of fence it is. This is just a 5-string barbed wire fence that we're doing right now, but I love fences. And I just love the way that they change the feel of a property and the usability of a property. So I will be sure to show you that in the next video. A double one in that one. So I do like to make sure that I water my seedlings really well before I pot them up. And the reason for that is when I do have more than one seedling per soil block, it's much easier and less stressful on the roots of the plant to pull the plant apart when the soil is moist. So always try to give everything a good water. Plus it does seem to help with the transplant shock a little bit, to have them a little bit wet, and then of course I give them a good water once I get them into their new homes. All right, friends, I think that is going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed spending some time with me, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.